After the most incredible Saturday of the season, we here at the Bedlam Nation Conversation are ready to break down what happened with OU and OSU and what they need to do going ahead this season. Hello, I'm Mike Kaler, and from the Dodge Sports Desk, this is the Bedlam Nation Conversation. Joining me today, as always, are OU football beat writers Jake Trotter and OSU football beat writer Scott Wright. In this first segment, let's go back to last Saturday. Tell me, both of you, in the games that you were at, what really sticks out most in your mind? What's the defining moment of that game?
Well, I think there were two defining moments in the OU-Texas game. I don't know if I was to ask first, but okay, I'll go first. The kickoff return in the first half, Jordan Shipley went 96 yards. The game was 14-3 at that point, really swung the momentum back to Texas. And then in the third quarter, when Ryan Reynolds went down with the injury, the defense was never the same after that, and Texas scored 25 points straight to close the deal. So those were the two big moments in my mind.
Who goes first is determined by, I think, the AP poll at this point. Scott, but you guys are creeping up. Tell me about the OSU-Missouri game. Heck of an atmosphere, night game up in Columbia. What's the defining moment of that game in your mind?
Well, one of the biggest defining moments, I think, has to be that second offensive series for Missouri when Oklahoma State becomes the first team all season to force them to a 3-and-out with Chase Daniel at quarterback. That was something that no one really expected Oklahoma State to be the defense to be able to do that. So that kind of set the tone for the rest of the night, and then Oklahoma State was able to get some pressure on Daniel in the second half and create those two big interceptions, both when Missouri was driving into Oklahoma State territory, and those were really big momentum swings for Oklahoma State.
Jake, what do you think ultimately made the biggest difference? A lot of people kind of point to the injury of Ryan Reynolds and how that left kind of a big gaping hole in the middle of OU's defense. Was that ultimately the difference maker?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, imagine what would happen to OU if they lost Sam Bradford, think Texas Tech. What if OSU lost Zach Robinson? Maybe it wasn't quite as dramatic, but OU losing Ryan Reynolds really just left this hole in the middle of the defense. There were a lot of plays that Texas made that I don't think that they necessarily make if Ryan Reynolds is in the lineup. So Texas certainly scores if Ryan Reynolds is still in the game, but did they score 25 straight? I don't think so.
Yeah, because he was playing so well. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that maybe some people forget is how good he was playing up to that point where he got hurt. Scott, what about you? What do you think made the ultimate difference? It might be a defensive question too for you, where that was the big question going in, and then they come up with 3 interceptions.
Well, really, I think one of the big difference makers that kind of got overlooked a little bit on game night was Damian Davis, because Missouri had a very specific plan to keep Dez Bryant limited. They were looking for any chance they could to get a good lick on him, double coverage pretty much all night, and so the emergence of another guy as a deep threat, or even just a guy to catch the ball, but it ended up being 2 deep plays. But that was a really significant thing for this Oklahoma State offense. He gets wide open on the first touchdown, and then obviously the kind of a jump ball situation whenever Robinson scrambles out of trouble and is able to find him open in the end zone for the what ended up being the game winner.
Both of you guys just talk a little bit about when it was all said and done on Saturday, which of the either results surprised you guys the most?
Well, I think the Oklahoma State result surprised me. I think probably would surprise most people. I mean, Texas was, obviously they're number 1 now. They're a very good team. It wasn't a game that OU was a lock to win. I think a lot of people felt like Oklahoma State could go there and play well, but beating the number 2 team on its home turf was really impressive to me.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think that when you take the neutral site, the magnitude of OU Texas, that's the kind of game that just like Bedlam can go either way. So it was a little bit of a surprise to me because I was one of the Texas doubters, but yeah, for Oklahoma State to go to Missouri and win the way that they did, especially playing good defense the way that they did, I would have given them a chance to win, but I would have said they had to score 50 to do it. Right. But yeah, Oklahoma State victory was definitely more surprising to me.
Alrighty, we'll be back to talk about where each team goes from here, but first this message from Dodge. Okay, second segment here on the Bedlam Nation Conversation presented by Dodge. Let's talk about what's next for OU and OSU. Jake, OU has Kansas this weekend, but it still has that, trying to fill that hole at linebacker. Where do they go from here, and is that going to continue to be a problem for them?
Well, it could be. I think we'll find out. Obviously, it's not going to be a quick fix right away. It's going to take some time to establish somebody in the middle. Austin Box has a chance, I think, to do fine there. But again, he hasn't been playing in the middle, and truthfully, they really felt like he wasn't very good in the middle. They felt like he was better on the weak side, or he would have been there all along. So it'll take some time. Brandon Crow will get some time there as well. Balaguer might, but I think it's going to basically be Box and Crow in the middle. So it could be a big problem this year, but it could be something that gets fixed over the next few games. I mean, we saw when Adrian Peterson went down a couple of years ago, nobody thought they'd be able to replace him at all. Mm-hmm. And Alan Patrick wasn't Adrian Peterson, and neither was Chris Brown, but they came in and did a very nice job filling in. And obviously, OU won, 7 straight games, won the Big 12 titles. So that can happen with this team.
One of the things we talked about at the beginning of the year was how they were a favorite in every game. Is that still the case, or do those margins shrink a little bit?
Well, I think it's still the case, except for Stillwater is still iffy. Because if OSU goes and beats Texas and Austin, then I think you got to think OSU will probably be favored in that game. Now, that's a big if, but it's definitely possible. OSU is certainly better than everybody thought they would be, and that game's on the road. But I think OU will still be favored at home against Tech. I still think they'll be favored at home against Kansas. I still think they'll be favored in Stillwater, but not by more than 7, and certainly maybe not if OSU beats Texas.
Scott, now the Cowboys are set up for the perfect trap game here. Celebrating their huge upset, playing the lowly Baylor Bears. Fortunately, it's at home. How do they look kind of for the next few weeks?
Oh yeah, that's the big thing. Is I mean, first of all, there's a lot of pressure on them to go out and prove that this wasn't just one great defensive game. Everything fell right at this one game, and that they really are worthy of being a top 10 team. There's that pressure, but there's also the possibility of looking ahead to that Texas game, which could be a huge game. They always play well in Austin. They rarely win down there, but they always play well down there. So yeah, the Baylor game is a little bit dangerous. This is a better Baylor team than we've seen in a while. They've got a lot of talent, especially on the offensive side, and some young guys. And so Oklahoma State has to come out and play well to be able to win this game. So you have to make sure that if you're an Oklahoma State player that you're focused on this game and you've forgotten about everything that happened in Missouri. You're not looking to Texas, and you're focused on the Baylor Bears.
This is a Bedlam Nation conversation, so we at least got to talk a little bit about that game. In both of your minds, kind of what's the best case scenario for that game? Because conceivably, if they both keep winning, that's 2 top 5 teams playing. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, well, obviously they both keep winning out. Yeah, I mean, I think OSU might have a loss to give. I mean, I think they can lose at Texas and come back and win every other game and be close to the top 5. So yeah, and that would probably be for the. Well, they would probably need to beat Texas for it to be for the Big 12 title. So I think best case scenario is OSU at least beats Texas, and then maybe can lose at Tech, and then that'd still be a huge game, obviously.
They might fill Boone Pickens Stadium for that. They might fill that.
Well, you can't. How do you
it's going to be tricky. That'll be tricky. How do
you get tickets for that game?
Yeah,
it's going to be the hardest ticket.
It's going to be the hardest ticket to get.
Somebody's asked me that the other day, so I don't know. I don't know what they will do because they obviously haven't sold out the stadium with season tickets. So
right, and there are not going to be any single ticket sales for that game.
You gotta have single tickets. So that's crazy.
Yeah, but you're gonna make some season ticket holders really angry if you do that.
Yeah, on Hall of Fame Avenue, there's going to be some single tickets.
Well, like jack up the prices or something. But man, you're going to leave that many empty seats for that game?
Do you see that? I mean, if OSU, even if they lose to Texas, it's going to be one of the better Bedlam games in a long, long time, just because they're going to be still in the top 15.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Unless something happens, I think right now that they're a better team than Texas Tech. Oklahoma State is. Mm-hmm. I think they can go into Lubbock and win. I definitely think they can go into Colorado and win. That was a game I thought they could win before they beat Missouri. So. Texas is probably the really tough game, the toughest game they've got left up until that point. So I see a really good chance for this to be, Oklahoma State could be playing for a 10-win season in Bedlam. There's a lot of different ways this could end up being a really exciting Bedlam game.
And I think if OSU finished in the top 10, top 15 this year, if they can finish with like 8 or 9, 10 wins this year, you're looking at a top 10 team preseason next year with the guys they have coming back. Yeah. Maybe the Big 12 South favorites along with Texas and OU.
Well, heck, if Missouri beats Texas this Saturday, and things. Cowboys could be #1 in 2
And
weeks.
OSU fans never know. OSU fans need to root for. They were asking.
Root for Missouri.
Root for Missouri. Even though it's kind of glorious to play a #1 team on the road, they need OU and OSU need Tech and Texas to lose and lose a lot. So I think both those teams have the advantage. A, because Texas beat OU and they get OSU at home, and B, Tech has OSU at home too, and Texas at home. So we need people in the state of Oklahoma need those teams to lose.
All right, we'll be back with our final segment, predictions, after this message from Dodge. We're back with the final segment of the Bedlam Nation conversation. We're going to predict Saturday's games. Scott, let's go ahead and start with you. The surging Cowboys at home against Baylor. What do you say?
Well, I do think there'll be a little bit of a letdown for the Cowboys in this game because of some of the reasons we talked about earlier. But I still think they're able to pull this one out. I'm going to go with 35-21 for the Cowboys over Baylor.
All right. Jake, you were talking a little bit about how the line might be a little too fat. I
think it is too fat. 19.5. This team has a lot of questions. I think 20 points is a little big. Kansas is a really good team. You think Kansas Reese doesn't throw the ball up for grabs at South Florida? They're undefeated. They're a top 6 or 7 team right now too. So I'm gonna go 44-31. I think Kansas scores its points against this OU defense, trying to sort of rebuild itself. But I think Bradford and the wide receivers carry this team to victory.
All righty, thanks a lot. That does it for this edition of the Bedlam Nation Conversation. Be sure to follow all the best coverage of OU and OSU football anywhere on newsok.com, newsok.tv, and every day in the Oklahoman.
Let's see it.